Every single day, we hear people talking and constantly decide how we feel about people based on not only what they're saying, but how they're saying it. From an early age, we implicitly judge others based on their speech and favor speech that mimics ours. By 5 years of age, children already show strong social preferences for peers who speak their native language with a familiar accent. Potential friendships in adolescence could cease to exist based on something as minor as another child having an accent or a stutter, and the social unacceptance can lead to negatively impacted social skills, reduced self-esteem, and academic delays. Hi, my name is Amanda Schnitter, and I'm a first-year student at San Diego State University studying speech, language, and hearing sciences so that I can become a pediatric speech-language pathologist. I've been fascinated with speech-language pathology since I was 13 years old, and I've been super passionate about learning more about the field of speech pathology and the social struggles that children with speech impediments face. So, I've interacted with scientific journals and studies outlining stereotyping seen in various language differences. Long and tedious studies outlining dense information can make it difficult to humanize the participants of the studies and remember that these findings about listeners perceiving them as less intelligent and unfriendly are detrimental struggles that real people are facing. It's important to me to understand these academic journals through a lens of care and empathy, as that's how I'll strive to eventually treat my patients. All future healthcare professionals in the speech, language, and hearing sciences field could benefit from analyzing the detriments of linguistic stereotyping through an interdisciplinary perspective, and that can be done by interacting with autobiographical literature regarding real accounts of linguistic profiling and the struggles that come with it. Mother Tongue by Amy Tan, How to Tame a Wild Tongue by Gloria Anzaldúa, and The Transformation of Silence into Language and Action by Audre Lorde provide insight into how speech and language are tied to identity, and the identities that come with this language can be warped by dominant linguistic narratives. This is seen in individuals who are bilingual or multilingual, along with individuals who have speech disorders. These individuals are perceived by listeners as less intelligent, less sociable, and less capable based on their divergent expressions of speech. Differences in mainstream language and how it is spoken does not indicate intelligence and value, and linguistic prejudices such as this are harmful as they create fear and silence. First, I want to cover accent stereotyping. So, research at the University of Chicago by Boaz Kaiser and Shira Lev Ari found that native speakers find non-native speakers with accents less credible because 1, the accent serves as a signal, and 2, the accent makes speech harder to process. That signal indicates to a listener that there is an outgroup member present, which ignites negative prejudices about respective outgroups to become present in a listener's mind. Additionally, how easy something is to understand, called processing fluency, affects how native speakers perceive non-native speakers. Therefore, the harder something is to understand, the less credible listeners find it to be. In development, children have a preference for their native languages and familiar accents, and media and social influences indicate to them what specific accents can be perceived as good or bad. According to psychologist Catherine D. Kinsler, from a young age, children absorb societal language stereotypes, leading to prejudicial attitudes. They learn that certain accents signify intelligence or morality, influencing their social interactions. Obviously, this is detrimental for young children who are non-native English speakers and have accents. In How to Tame a Wild Tongue, Gloria Anzaldúa explores the reduction of her language and use of Chicana Spanish as being seen as illegitimate, and how this creates division among herself and other Chicana women. She asserts, and because we internalize how our language has been used against us by the dominant culture, we use our language differences against each other. This displays how children and adolescents will want to conform more to native English-speaking phonetics, and may even be less inclined to speak their native language at home and with family or friends, because they're scared they can't make the code switch, or that they can only belong to one group or another and not both groups simultaneously. Anzaldúa touches on the untruthfulness of this non-belonging to both groups when she claims that there is no one Chicano language just as there is no one Chicano experience. A monolingual Chicano whose first language is English or Spanish is just as much a Chicana as one who speaks several variants of Spanish. Similarly, Catherine Kinsler finds a solution to accent discrimination that children inherit from society when she states that the media and societal context contribute to an environment of permissible speech discrimination, which must be recognized and addressed to promote more equitable perceptions of language and its speakers. Individuals with accents are seen as less credible and constantly experience not being taken seriously for how they're speaking. Unfortunately, individuals with speech disorders also face similar challenges. People commonly perceive individuals with even mild disorders as also possessing other unobserved, primarily negative traits with respect to a number of characteristics, including intelligence, self-esteem, level of extroversion, competence, aggression, emotional stability, social adjustment, stress level, education, sensitivity, social appeal, and employability. That's a lot. This is clearly seen in Mother Tongue, where Amy Tan illustrates how her mother's imperfect English made others think that she was unintelligent or incapable, when that was not reflective of her abilities in any way. Tan asserts, "You should know that my mother's expressive command of English belies how much she actually understands. She reads the Forbes report, listens to Wall Street Week, converses daily with her stockbroker, reads all of Shirley MacLaine's books with ease, all kinds of things I can't begin to understand." While Tan goes on to say that she can understand her mother's English perfectly and finds it to be full of observation and imagery, the vast majority of people can't understand her mother, causing Tan to assist her mother by communicating with professionals over the phone so that she can actually be taken seriously. Being perceived as less intelligent, emotionally stable, and socially appealing, among many other things, as previously touched on, can take a huge hit on self-esteem, especially with children. According to Rebecca Novum, children with speech and/or language impairments are more likely to be ignored by their peers when initiating conversations, are at a disadvantage when making friends, and in turn have rated themselves as having significantly fewer peer relationships and as feeling more lonely during school in comparison to their classmates who have typical language development. This is why pediatric speech therapy is so important to provide to a child, as a speech disorder can simply not fix itself, and it has detrimental implications that go far beyond just communication. With both of those things in mind, I want to ultimately look at the intersection of non-native English-speaking discrimination and speech disorder discrimination. Speech therapy for all age demographics, especially children so that the disorder can be treated earlier, is essential for self-esteem, social success, and eventually career success. Speech pathologists, of course, do their best to assess and treat patients, but how can they best treat a patient who not only suffers from a speech disorder, but who is also multilingual and a non-native English speaker? Again, as I touched upon previously, non-native English speakers face similar struggles to individuals with speech disorders, as being perceived negatively in multiple aspects by listeners, meaning that the intersection of non-native English speaking and a speech disorder amplify the struggles and listener judgment that an individual would experience. An individual possessing both of these traits could be further pushed into silence due to fear of being judged, not being taken seriously, and not being respected, among so many other things. In the transformation of silence into language and action, Audre Lorde knows how it feels to be silenced as a Black lesbian woman, and after having a cancer scare, she decides that it's time for her to transform her silence into language. She claims that the reason people tend to stay silent is because, in the cause of silence, each of us draws the face of her own fear of contempt, of censure, of some judgment or recognition, of challenge, of annihilation. It is a normal response to be inclined to stay silent out of a fear of ridicule and scrutiny, but silence is not helpful. Lorde additionally claims that, "My silences had not protected me, your silence will not protect you." Everyone's voice deserves to be heard, and no person is more worthy of speaking than another. This is why all speech pathologists should endeavor to have a more ethnographic assessment and treatment plan to help every population. Speech therapy cannot just be made for a white, native English-speaking monolingual population. According to certified speech-language pathologist Kate Grandeboy, regardless of your clinical specialty, regardless of your area of competency, to be an effective clinician, you need to create safe spaces where your clients, patients, and families can feel vulnerable and can feel safe. And you absolutely cannot do that without considering some of these cultural aspects. As a provider, you may not be able to relate directly to a patient's culture or understand their specific struggles as a non-native English speaker with a speech disorder, but you need to be able to respect the child's cultural background to provide the best care for them. Stigma surrounding speaking differently will unfortunately always be present, whether that's seen in non-native English speakers, people with speech disorders, or both. A lot of these biases are learned in adolescence. Additionally, self-esteem issues that speech-impaired individuals possess surrounding differences in speech arise in adolescence. This is why it's important, especially as a pediatric speech-language pathologist, to approach treatment from an interdisciplinary standpoint, focusing on a child's specific needs, like cultural, socio-emotional, and interpersonal needs. Interacting with Tame, Anzaldúa, and Lorde's texts truly elucidate the importance of not being silenced and using your voice no matter what cultural or societal prejudices one faces. All future and current speech-language pathologists should endeavor to work with their clients to the best of their unique needs and expand their clinical practicum by applying arts and broader concepts to their treatment to facilitate ethnographic treatment that encompasses and honors all patients. Tame and Anzaldúa depict the harm of cultural linguistic stereotyping and the negative impacts it can have on an individual, while Lorde reminds us that silences only hurt us and never help, and that speaking up is important no matter what. While these texts are not directly related to speech, language, and hearing sciences, the implications they provide about the benefits of culturally inclusive speech therapy are meaningful and show why creative, multifaceted approaches to speech therapy are important for children, because no one should ever feel that they have to silence themselves.